Okay, so this is my Guilty Gear guide for Daniel and Lauren. I just wanted to make a short little video because, Daniel, you put in the chat that you never felt like you played a fighting game against anybody except for Third Strike. I would say probably the reason for that is because Third Strike is very, very intuitive. Everything makes sense, exactly how you expect it to be. Guilty Gear is not like that. Guilty Gear is not an intuitive game. And it's a lot, and because of that, it's a lot more fun once you start thinking about it in a little bit of a different way, because you can't just sort of like just intuit everything in Guilty Gear because it's so much different. So how I would encourage you to think about Guilty Gear is, and one of the things that makes it unique is that all of these different buttons, punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, they're all different tools. And it's better to think about Guilty Gear in terms of tools rather than just like throwing out moves that sort of Street Fighter is like. Because the thing about Guilty Gear is if you're hitting buttons and you're like sort of mashing, that can work in certain games that are more intuitive, that where like, well, I'm mashing this button so this thing should happen, or something similar to this should happen, that you can sort of intuit, like with Street Fighter and Tekken and games like that. Whereas in anime games, and Guilty Gear specifically, pretty much all of your buttons are like can have all your different moves can be significantly different tools for significantly different situations. So I would just try and think of it in terms of what you're doing is a specific tool, and you want to think about what that tool is, like what exactly you're using it for. Which we're just going to go over buttons next, because and just explain like the general concept of this. Okay, so buttons, you have punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, and dust. You want to think about these in terms of what exactly this tool is being used for, and you want to think about that with every move that you use, because there are certain moves that intuitively you want to use for a certain thing, but it doesn't work like that in a lot of situations. So we're gonna have Soul block everything. Okay, so a tool that is very, very obvious, and I'm just going to give an example, and you can figure out what other tools your character has, because I'm just going to use Kai as an example because he's quite straightforward, is this move right here. This standing slash, far slash, is really, really good for poking. That's mainly what you're going to use it for. It's not good for damage. It's not good for keeping people blocking. It's pretty much only going to be used for poking at long range. Because what you can do is you can combine this tool with another tool you have to help you out a little bit. So here's another tool Kai has, is his projectile. It's very slow, it doesn't do a lot of damage. So what's the purpose? The purpose can be to stop somebody from doing something you don't want them to do on the other side of the screen. Like for example, if you're playing against Axel, you don't want him to go into Sparrowhawk stance. You can throw that, move forward, and you close the distance a little bit. So that's what you can use that for. This is also a very awesome and amazing tool that Kai has. It's slow, it does good damage, but the only reason it does good damage is because the other person wants to block it or to get out of the way. And what you want to do with this tool is you want them to block it. And that is a concept that's very common in anime games, but there are certain things that you want people to block because it will lock them down, so you can do a mix-up on them. And we'll go over mix-ups right after this. But you might want to do this, and if they don't jump to get out of the way, and they start blocking that, now you're here. You can start mixing them up again. You can throw this out again. If they keep blocking it, keep respecting it, then they're just going to be locked in this, and you can attempt your mix-ups over and over again with whatever you want to do. So that's the whole point of this tool. So when you use a move, you want to think about it in terms of what is it accomplishing? What is this tool accomplishing? Because that's really going to help you with understanding the game, because you can't really intuit what certain things do just from like, well, it feels like I should be doing this, it feels like I should be hitting this. You want to think when you're throwing something out, well, what is the purpose of this? Okay, and I'm going to go over just some of the basic things that might not be obvious from the get-go, but are very important. So you have punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, dust. There's also a fifth move that you can do just by standing, and everyone has this move. It's close slash. So when you're close enough, your slash button, which is this when you're far away, the long range poke, will turn into a faster, closer, more short range move. Okay, so everybody has that move. Everyone also has it's pretty much a universal anti-air, where your entire body becomes invincible on your upper body. It's forward and punch. That's what it looks like for Kai. Kai's entire body is invincible up top. So I'm going to be Saul for a second. And I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to use that move. Right? So I'm going to have Saul do that, sorry. Let me set this in play. Alright. There is no reality where almost anything that Saul does is going to hit me. Look, I mean, I can do that so low, but because my whole upper body, I can do it to the point where he's even on the ground. This forward P is so important to use as an anti-air. If you see somebody going like this, you're gonna want to use it to stop that approach. My bad. that actually hit like sort of behind me. Right? So that's gonna be really good to stop air approaches. You gotta space it right still. So yeah. So yeah, that's really important to stop air approaches. Another important thing is this move. It's crouching D. This is everybody's sweep. It's gonna cause a knockdown on every single person. It's the same for every single character. This crouching D will knock people down. And for a lot of people, it's a good combo ender. So if you're Kai and you want to do a little combo, you can do kick slash sweep. Kick close slash sweep. That's pretty good, right? Because what that does, and pretty much the whole reason you want to knock somebody down, is to set something else up. So you see how they had to block that, and then you can continue your pressure on them, right? So those are two very important moves that are universal for everybody. Is this anti-air that's forward punch, and the sweep that's crouching D. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is mix-ups. This is pretty much the core of anime, is when you have somebody blocking or you're attacking and you think they're going to block, you have to mix them up. So let's go over to the corner. So Saul is, I'm going to have him always block low. Okay, so no matter what I do, he's gonna block. And so what are you supposed to do in this situation when this person is always blocking everything you do? Well, of course, I mean, you can try and hit him high. Boom, boom, boom. Right? That's a big success. If you can just do that and end in a knockdown, you can count that as a success. But, so if they're always blocking low, you want to hit them high. That's pretty obvious. Another thing you can do if they're always blocking is you can throw. And throwing is when you're very close to the person, you hold back or forward and hit heavy slash. If you're too far away, your heavy slash button will come out. So that's how you know if you sort of messed up a throw or you weren't close enough, is if you're not close enough, a move will come out. Which in some situations, if you mess up your throw, it can cover you. But for the most part, yeah, if you see that move, you messed up your throw. Okay? And so if the person says, well, you're always jumping in on me, and I'm gonna react to that, I'm gonna block high. I mean, you can walk up, and if they're expecting you to jump, you can just hit them with lows, right? And if they're expecting you to jump and block that hit, right? If they're expecting you to jump and then block it, what you can do is jump and then just hit them with a low. Or you can jump and throw them if you think they're going to switch to blocking low. Right? So that is the mix-up. That is the basis of a lot of anime, is that once you are starting to attack and they're blocking, you have to do something to open them up, because they can block forever if you don't mix them up. Like if you don't mix them up and you're just hitting buttons like this and they just get free blocks all day, the game is going to be very slow, because you're going to be relying on getting all of your damage off stray hits when you're just in neutral. But once you get them to start blocking, you are greatly advantaged. If you can get them to block, you are greatly advantaged. The attacker, for the most part, is advantaged in this game. So yeah, and another thing in Guilty Gear that's very important is locking people down so you can do a mix-up. So if I get them to block this, I can start doing a mix-up. I can do this, right? I can do this. I messed it up. I can do this, right? Or I can do this. And then I can also do this, and if they think you'll just keep doing this, you can obviously throw out an overhead or something like that. But that mix-up is the basis of a lot of anime, is you have to mix the other person up. Otherwise, you're not going to have too much success with what you're doing. Okay, now we're going to switch characters, because you know how Kai locks people down, and you sort of know how Kai can mix people up. So I'm going to be solo for this. We're going to go over how to deal with the mix-ups, which this can be the most frustrating part of anime, is that when you're under pressure, it can be hard to understand when you can get out, or when it's your turn, or what you can do, because it might just seem like in some situations that you just have to keep blocking forever and there's nothing you can do. And while the attacker is definitely advantaged, you have a great many things you can do on defense to stop them from continuing the pressure. So I'm going to record Kai doing just a very basic mix-up. Not even a mix-up. We'll just have him do a block straight. Right? My bad. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to have him do that, and we're going to try and figure out how we can get out of this. Alright? So one option is to use your burst. You have to remember you have to keep your options in mind, because this burst is given to you once or twice if you use it early around. Some people it charges a little bit faster for, depending on what you're doing. But this is something that you're really going to want to keep in mind, is if you just want to say get off me, you gotta use the burst. And an important thing is to remember that you have these tools, because the thing that Sam struggled with is she just would not remember that, oh, she can burst, she has these defensive options. And it's hard to remember them in the moment a little bit, But that's sort of a part of Guilty Gears. There's a lot of things you have to contend with. So there's something that you can do. And then there's also this. So okay. So that's a free get off me. That's called a dead angle. And how you do that, it takes 50% meter, but while you're blocking, you hit forward and punch and kick at the same time. And that's just a free get off me. I think Kai might be too far away. Nope, he wasn't. And for the most part, that's going to hit every single time. I mean, for both of these, you can bait them out, but that's pretty much at a level that we're not at. Well, yeah. So you don't really have to worry about that. Point is that those are two really strong get-off-me tools that you pretty much get for free. So yeah, I mean, remember to keep those tools in mind when that pressure is happening. I'll be Kai again. Here's something else that you want to keep in mind. Right? So that's Kai's 6P, which we went over. It's full body invincible. So if you see somebody coming in, and this is pretty much just going over defensive options. If you see somebody coming in at you from high, this will work in a lot of situations. And most characters, it's a very, very strong move. Some characters have weaker 6Ps than others, or forward punches than others. But for the most part, it's a very strong tool for most characters. Sometimes that'll happen, but but yeah, it's pretty important. Another thing you can do, and this is a little bit more difficult, is you can backdash. Backdashing is fully invincible. So let me see. Here's a good example of where backdashing might be good. Let me switch back over to Kai. We're gonna go bop bop bop. Right? Bop bop bop. My bad. Alright. Whoops. Right? So you can backdash to get out of pressure. It's fully invincible, and it's a very, very good tool for saying, well, I don't want to be in this situation, let's get out. And for the other character to counter that, it takes a larger commitment than your backdash. So all in all, it's a very good way to get out of pressure. I mean, you can use it in the corner, but obviously if you don't use it in the corner, you can put some distance in between each other. And then one other thing that's very, very obvious is a DP, or a Dragon Punch, or a Shoryuken, or whatever you want to call it. So here we go. Right? So if you see them, I don't know if that's gonna hit. Yeah, it crossed me up. If you see them jumping in on you, I mean, you can do a 6P. Whoops. I mean, you can do a 6P. I mean, you can do a 6P and cancel and assure you. But sometimes you need, and oh, you know what? I guess this makes a little more sense to use it on Wake Up. So here's a good example. Is Kai is going to knock Soul down, and then he's going to use that on Wake Up. My bad. Right? So if you want to say, hey, get off me, you're right on top of me, get off me, you're going to want a DP, because for most characters that have a DP, the DP is invincible. Kai's is not, so keep that in mind. Kai's, you're going to have to do something different. Another thing you can do on defense is if somebody is very, very close to you on Wake Up. Check this out. My bad. Let me re-record this. Right? is you just throw them on wake up. That can happen a lot. If somebody's too close to you when you're waking up, your throw is completely your throw is invincible and it's free. So if somebody's too close to you, you can just throw them if they're getting a little too up in your face. The last defensive thing that I want to talk about, what was it? Oh, yeah. Is using a super. Using a super on wake up. This is also an option. It's going to be invincible for most characters, right? So, but it's a little bit more disrespectful, and it can be really good and it's also a little bit more, well, actually it can, in a lot of situations it's way more safe than throwing out a DP, because if they block that, you're in sort of a world of hurt. So just for an example, right? They have all that time to get ready to punish you. So you have a lot of defensive options. I'm not going to go over barrier because it's sort of niche and somewhat annoying, and but yeah, you have, as you see, I mean, you have a lot of defensive options. It's just a lot to remember in the moment when you're being attacked, but knowing how to utilize and even just knowing that you have these defensive mechanics can make the game a lot less frustrating to play when you're getting attacked and you don't really know what you can do about it. Okay, and the last defensive mechanic I completely forgot about, there are a lot of defensive mechanics in this game, is called Faultless defense. So a thing about Guilty Gear is that if you're in the air and someone uses a move on the ground, you cannot block it. You can't not block in the air if the move is being used on the ground. So I'm going to have Kai go like this and then use this. I'm going to be blocking in the air. You can see my little stick down here. Okay. Alright. My bad. Okay. I was blocking that. It will hit you every single time. It will hit you every single time. So the only way to block moves in the air when you're on the ground is by using Faultless defense. And that's holding block and then hitting punch and kick, which is square and X at the same time. This is what it looks like. It does use meter, right? But it allows you to block in the air. So here, I'm going to block it this time. Okay, that's not going to be as super important for you guys, but I wanted to mention that because that's also a point of FD. So FD is used for defense. You can another thing about FD is that, well, another thing about this game is that if you're running and you start holding back, you will not be blocking. So I'm gonna have Kai throw this. My bad. I'm gonna have Kai throw this, and I'm gonna run up to it and then block it. You can see on my joystick, my bad, that I'm blocking before I get to it, but you sort of have like a slide where do you see how it's all sort of is sliding there? You cannot block during that time. You cannot block even if you're holding back. It will not block if you run forward. But if you use FD, you can stop instantly, right? So that's pretty important. My bad. That was stupid. Okay, here we go. I'm bad. Right? So that's a use for Faultless. It's called FD. Okay, and the other use, main defensive use for FD, is to get people off of you when they are attacking you. So I'm going to have Kai do close slash, heavy slash, overhead. My bad. Right? So, Kai, come over here. Whoops. Right? So, there we go. And the thing is, if you're blocking that and you're blocking low, you're going to get hit by that. But check this out. If you FD, which is holding back and punch and kick at the same time, check this out. He's too far away now. He's too far away. So you don't have to worry about that anymore if you FD. And this is really good to get out of pressure. So you don't even have to worry, do I have to block high, do I have to block low? No, I'll just use some meter, and with every time they attack me, they'll be pushed back a little bit farther. So with something like that, and you can get out of pressure earlier too. So that third hit, it doesn't even hit me. Fourth hit, my bad. And look how far back I am. And while they're doing that, you can set up whatever you want to set up. And now how the tables have turned. So yeah, this is a very, very, very strong mechanic. You have to hold back and hold punch and kick at the same time. It'll use meter, but if you do that, it will really help you on defense as well. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to say, because Sam said that me telling her this helped her a lot, is that you don't always have to be doing something. Allow the game to have its own, pace. And there are characters that always do want to be doing something. For example, Kai is like that. He pretty much wants to be either setting up his little thunder seals or throwing projectiles or things like that. And Axel is like that. He always wants to be doing something at the other side of the screen. But it's okay if the game is a little bit slower than you want it to go. If you play a little bit more patiently and understand the situations that you're getting into a little bit more, you will find more enjoyment rather than always having to think you have to throw yourself at the other person constantly. In addition to that, as far as that goes, moving forward is always a risk because you can't hold block when you're moving forward. So keep that in mind, is that moving forward has to be a conscious choice, and you have to make it when you think that the other person isn't going to do certain things, or make it keeping in mind that you may have to react and maybe FD block quickly. In addition to that, moving forward, because you have to FD block, no matter what, if something happens that you don't expect, or you think something will happen, you have to spend meter to make whatever you're doing safe. So you want to be careful with moving in, and if you do this, if you go forward like this, you can't FD, right? I'm FDing as soon as possible. That's as soon as you can do it. So if you forward dash, you are completely invulnerable. Sorry, you are completely vulnerable. You cannot do, like if you air dash, if you instant air dash, you cannot do anything besides instant air dash for that entire time. And obviously you can throw out a move, but you cannot block. So it's a very, very big risk to do that. So you don't, like, because it's risky to move forward, you want to make sure that you're doing it purposefully instead of just, well, I'm playing a fighting game, I'm playing anime, we got to go forward and we always got to be Super Saiyan fighting each other, etc., etc. You can slow it down and just stay at range and throw out Gunflame, throw out Projectile, fish for counter hits with this move right here. You have other things that you can do that the game doesn't always have to be like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta fight, I gotta go, blah, blah, blah. If you slow it down, you will have a lot more clarity about the game, because sometimes you can just slow it down and you can wait for your opponent to make a mistake. You can wait for them to go forward like this, and you can anti-air that when they can't block. You can do things like that. You can slow it down and see what their tendencies are, see what they want to do, and how you can use your own tools to deal with that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this helps you guys.